Good evening, everybody, and welcome to another To the Grave and Back. Hi. We have Lois with us. Nick is going to be joining us in a minute or so, and I think Rosie will be popping in at some point. She has a few things to sort out at home first before she can jump on. So tonight, it would be titled "The Town That Never Was." However,
but Lois didn't read Wayne's message and ended up creating the thing way before I could see it. So it's my bad. So we've changed the title. Tonight it's not called Centralia, the Real Silent Hill. It's a town that was.
Yeah. Basically, yes, this is the actual town itself became famous again because of the computer game and the movie Silent Hill. But not to be confused with Silent Hill, simply because Centralia was only an idea as a basis for the film itself, simply because of the situation there. So Centralia is a borough and near a ghost town in Columbia County, Pennsylvania. And it's part of the northeastern Pennsylvania, and the population at one point rose to over 2,000 people, but it had declined. But from population declined to about 1,000 in 1980, and it's now roughly 5 or so residents, probably even less now. So over the years, the decline has been there, and a lot of that is because of the area itself. I can't remember what they called it now. It was the coal that was there is the best coal that you could mine. I'm trying to think of what the name of it was now. I can't remember what the name of the coal was. It's the best coal you can get, basically. It burns a lot fiercer, and it burns for longer. And so it was mainly built around the mining industry.
Is it always?
It was originally owned by Native American Indians, who then promptly sold the area for $500. Nonetheless.
Oh wow.
Excuse me. So there were many Native American tribes in what is now Columbia County. And they sold the land that makes up Centralia to colonial agents in 1749 for only $500. Then in 1770, during the construction of the Reading Road, which stretched from Reading to Fort Augusta, which is present-day Sunbury, settlers surveyed and explored the land. A large portion of the Reading Road was developed later as Route 61.
Here's my boy.
What's up, guys?
Evening, Nick.
Nick, don't you be copying me with no camera on?
It's only just for a quick minute because, hey, Rosie, there she is.
Hey, Rosie.
It's just only for a quick minute. One of my lights fell, and I'd rather not have the camera on while I'm putting it back up. So I'll be on in 2 minutes.
Hey, William. Sorry, Ben, carry on, my love.
Right, so a large portion of the Reading Road was then developed later and was turned into Route 61, the main highway east into and south of Centralia. But in 1793, Robert Morris, a hero of the Revolutionary War and signatory of the Declaration of Independence, acquired a third of Centralia's valley land. When he declared bankruptcy in 1798, the land was then surrendered to the Bank of the United States. A French sea captain named Stephen Gerard purchased Morris's land for $30,000, including 68 tracts east of Morris, and he had learned that there was anthracite coal in the region, which is the best coal you can possibly use. So I found it. So The Centralia coal deposits were largely overlooked before the construction of the Mine Run Railroad in 1854. In 1832, Jonathan Forst opened the Bull's Head Tavern in what was called Roaring Creek Township. This gave the town its first name, Bull's Head. In 1842, Centralia's land was bought by the Locust Mountain Coal and Iron Company, and Alexander Ray, a mining engineer, moved his family in and began planning a village, laying out streets and lots for development. Ray named the town Centerville, but in 1865 changed it to Centralia because the US Post Office already had a Centerville in Schuylkill County. The Mine Run Railroad was then built in 1854 to transport the coal out the valley. The first two mines in Centralia opened in 1856, the Locust Run Mine and the Coal Ridge Mine. Afterward came the Hazel Dell Colliery Mine in 1860, the Centralia Mine in 1862, and the Continental Mines in 1863. The Continental was located on Stephen Gerrard's former estate, branching from the Lehigh Valley Railroad, and the Lehigh and Mahoney Railroad was constructed to Centralia in 1865. It enabled transport and expansion of Centralia's coal sites to markets in eastern Pennsylvania. Centralia was then incorporated as a
sorry, guys.
In 1866.
I love the way you done that there, Ben. That was like, that bitch interrupted me.
Its principal employer was the anthracite coal industry. Alexander Ray, the town's founder, was murdered in his buggy by members of the Molly Maguires on October 17th, 1868, during a trip between Centralia and Mount Carmel. 3 men were eventually convicted of his death and were hung in the county seat of Bloomsburg on March 25th, 1878. Several other murders and incidents of arson also took place during the violence, as Centralia was a hotbed of Molly Maguire's activity during the 1860s to organise a mine workers' union in order to improve wages and working conditions. So if anybody wants to know who the Molly Maguires were, they were an Irish 19th century secret society active in Ireland, Liverpool, and parts of eastern United States. And they were best known for their activism amongst Irish American and Irish immigrant coal miners in Pennsylvania.
Do you know if they still have a United States division?
I'm not too sure. I think pretty much I wouldn't.
Hey, Roger.
They reckon that there are a few family members, the descendants of some of the Molly Maguires, still around.
I've heard them before.
Yeah.
But shortly afterwards, I think it was they were all eventually caught. But a legend among the locals in Centralia tells that Father Daniel Ignatius McDermott, the first Roman Catholic priest to call Centralia home, cursed the land in retaliation for being assaulted by 3 members of the Maguires in 1869. McDermott said that there would be a day when St. Ignatius Roman Catholic Church would be the only structure remaining in Centralia. Many of the Molly Maguires' leaders were hung in 1877, ending their crimes. Legends say that the number of descendants of the Molly Maguires still lived in Centralia up until the 1980s. But according to the numbers of federal census records, the town of Centralia reached its maximum population of 2,761 in 1890. And at its peak, the town had 7 churches, 5 hotels, 27 saloons, 2 theatres, a bank, a post office, and 14 general and grocery stores. 37 years later, the production of anthracite coal had reached its peak in Pennsylvania. And in the following years, production started to decline. And as many young miners from Centralia enlisted in the military when the US entered World War I. And basically, from then onwards, you saw the decline of Centralia. And in 1950, Centralia Council acquired the rights to all anthracite coal beneath Centralia through a state law passed in 1949 that enabled the transaction. That year, the federal census counted 1,986 residents. Coal mining continued in Centralia until the 1960s, when most of the companies shut down, and bootleg mining continued until 1982. Strip and open pit mining are still active in the area. An underground mine about 3 miles to the west still employs about 40 people. The rail service ended in 1966, and Centralia operated its own school district, including an elementary school, high school. There were also 2 Catholic parochial schools. By 1980, it had 1,012 residents. Another 500 or 600 lived nearby. Then we get to the ill-fated day. And this one I found quite interesting, because when I looked into it a lot more, it turned out that the fires weren't originally set where they were set.
Oh, wow.
So the
Prior
pits
to
were in a
19
different location? The pits were were the pits in a different location then?
Yeah, a lot of people, it's a common belief that the fire started inside the coal mine, but it didn't.
No.
Every year before Memorial Day, the local council would set fire to the landfill to burn all the rubbish. And in May 1962, the powers that be in Centralia had said, we need to burn this landfill off before Memorial Day because it's right next door to the cemetery. And they didn't want people gathering in the cemetery with this horrible foul smell of trash.
Dead flesh. No.
So they set fire to it. The problem was, when the landfill was originally to be used, they forgot that it was a strip mine pit.
Oh.
How could they forget that? I don't know.
Yeah, it says here, I'm actually reading some of it. It was
when they went to normally when they get a strip mine pit and they close it off, they usually seal it so that any veins of coal that are on the edges are sealed off with a thick layer of clay, and that then stops anything from contaminating what coal is still there. And apparently one of the seams was left exposed, and so when they set fire to the rubbish, it caught onto the coal seam, and the coal seam, being anthracite, burns a lot stronger, a lot harder, and burns a lot hotter. So it caught, and bam, that was it.
And it's asking, was there
a film about the Molly McGuire?
I think I've done a podcast about him too.
I'm not sure.
I wouldn't be surprised if there is.
This mine, by the way, just looked up. I mean, when they dumped it in, it was originally cleared by Edward Whitney back in 1935. So for the most part, it had been almost abandoned. It didn't really operate for very long. So it had been basically abandoned for almost 30 years.
Yeah, and the thing is, normally when they seal them off, like we say, they usually put a thick layer of clay around it.
Yes.
So that anything that happens, it wouldn't do anything, and it could be then reopened at a later point and be reused. So obviously this had been done in years before. So they would burn the rubbish off, and then that would be done, and it'd be ready to be used again. Well, obviously on this occasion, didn't quite work. And on May the 27th, 1962, the firefighters, as they had in the past, set the dump on fire and let it burn for some time. And unlike in previous years, however, the fire was not fully extinguished. An unsealed opening in the pit allowed the fire to enter the labyrinth of abandoned coal mines beneath the town. By contrast, other sources claimed that fire had started the previous day when a trash hauler dumped hot ash and a coal discarded from the coal burners into the open trash pit. But another theory proposes that the Bast Colliery fire of 1932 was never fully extinguished, and then 30 years later had moved into the vein under Centralia and continued the fire. In 1979, locals had then become aware of the scale of the problem after they tried to put it out originally, and it continued to burn undetected for a while. They said that a gas station owner and then mayor John Coddington inserted a dipstick into one of his underground tanks to check the fuel level. And when he withdrew it, it seemed too hot. So he lowered the thermometer into the tank. And when he pulled the thermometer out, the temperature of the gasoline tank was 172 Fahrenheit.
Jesus.
Oh, Jesus Christ, that would have been that super
That's
warm.
another stupid
I actually
mistake
have
right
something
there.
to add to this. To what you're talking.
77.8 degrees centigrade for anybody that doesn't do Fahrenheit.
Wayne, I also have a picture here I'm going to present while you're talking to give an example. This is an actual rare photograph, like one of the first photos taken of the coal fire, it being exposed in 1969. It's a black and white picture, but you guys
it
get
was
an idea of
Yep.
what it looks like.
Holy shit.
Yeah, that was during excavation during that year in 1969. So it's clear evidence that this fire was starting strong.
Yeah.
But can you imagine, right, living in this small town and having a fire under... It's basically when somebody says, I'll put a fire beneath your arse. That's
Yeah.
kind
Like
of
hell.
what the people
Like they
in
were standing on top
Centralia
of
had,
hell.
really, was fire underneath them.
Yeah.
Because, as I said, as I showed you guys with obviously the documentary, when me and my partner were sitting, well, my partner actually came in for work and I was sitting watching it, and he said, "Oh, is that Centralia?" And I was like, "Aye." I said that Wayne picked it for Thursday's show. I said, "So I'm just sitting, watching documentaries, and I love watching the documentaries for way back then. I don't really like watching documentaries for like years on. So this was a 14. Wayne told me it was a 14-year-old documentary, right? So I'm sitting watching it, and you can see this guy in a digger, and he's sitting smoking, and my partner went, "Aye, there's a fire underneath you, and you're sitting there smoking."
Yeah.
And I was laughing. I was like, "But can you imagine?" But then, as I used in the advertisement, the picture of like the before Centralia and obviously the aftermath, and you do get a lot of people, and it's not just places like Centralia, but you've got a lot of people who can live in these towns for years and years and years, and for whatever reason, whether it's fire, whether it's sinkholes, whether it's whatever, a lot of people don't want to move away,
No,
because
they
that's
don't.
where basically that's where their house is,
Their
and the
entire life
gentleman
there,
that
everything
obviously,
they have.
Yeah.
Well,
and
I mean,
Another example. Here's another picture. I thought this again adds to what you just said too, Wayne, about like the temperatures and stuff. This is a DEP temperature reading from Centralia, and it's close to the temperature that you said, but this is what this temperature reads from the ground up.
yeah.
holy God, man. You could get a suntan off that.
All your doggies' feet are gonna get burned. All your pets.
Oh,
You
Lord.
just don't want to go walking. You just don't want to go walking around on the concrete bare feet.
Yeah.
No, you don't.
No.
Any animals that walk around.
Sarah Louise says, wasn't they caused by dumping, burning
Yes.
rubbish into the mine? Eric says, I knew somebody that lived there. I hope you're okay, Eric. Sarah Louise said, what will happen to properties above the fire when the coal is burnt away? Will the properties fall into sinkholes? More than likely.
I'm gonna get to that.
Yep.
This
I was
Yeah.
gonna
All
say,
right.
I know
See-
where Wayne's going.
It gets
See, you,
very
Sarah, you're
dark.
skipping 20 minutes ahead of yourself.
It gets
Can I
very
ask one
dark.
question?
Yeah.
When you were saying what made the town up originally, did you say silos?
Silent Hill.
Okay, they said silos, like missile silos, and I was like, "What the hell?"
I mean, basically, there would the author of the film Silent Hill
Yeah.
looked at Centralia for inspiration.
Yeah, I can
A
see
lot
that.
of people automatically go Silent Hill, Centralia, and they it's based on, but it's not. It's just the theory behind
Inspiration.
and the inspiration behind what happened with
Yeah, it looks like that in
Centralia.
the movie, like something that got burned down to
Yeah,
population.
and all the fog and the mystery around it, and it's just sort of, so people sort of tend to assume that was the end result, which obviously it wasn't. But I mean, everything sort of the actual state tried to put the fires out, and then they ran out of money. And the state wasn't prepared to keep pumping more and more money in to try and put these fires out because they were underground. They tried digging trenches, and the trenches weren't working because they dug one trench thinking they got it and stopped it from spreading, but it had already gone past where the trench was and was still burning behind the line. So it just carried on. And then the money ran out, and they said, after all this money we've paid, we're not prepared to pay anymore. We can't keep doing it. We're fighting a losing battle. But then it sort of culminated on February the 14th in 1981 when 12-year-old Todd Domboski fell into a sinkhole in his grandmother's garden. He fell. It was 4 feet wide and 150 feet deep. It suddenly opened up beneath his feet in his grandmother's backyard, but saved himself by grabbing onto the roots of a tree. And his cousin, 14-year-old Eric Wolfgang, pulled Domboski out of the hole to safety, and a plume of hot steam billowing from the hole was tested and found to contain lethal levels of carbon monoxide. And at the time of the sinkhole collapse, US Representative James Nelligan and Governor Dick Thornburg were actually visiting the town to assess the area. And although there was visible evidence of the fire, residents of Centralia were bitterly divided over the question of whether or not the fire posed a direct threat to the town. So it then started to gain a lot of notoriety, and In The Real Disaster is Above Ground by Steve Krollsmith and Steve Couch identified at least 6 community groups, each organised around varying interpretations of the amount and kind of risk posed by the fire. And in 1983, the US Congress allocated more than $42 million for relocation efforts. Nearly all of the residents accepted the government's buyout offers, and more than 1,000 people moved out of the town, and 500 structures were demolished by 1990. The census then recorded only 63 remaining residents. But what they were doing was they were buying the properties, and as soon as a street or a block was left, all the people had gone, they moved straight in with the bulldozers and pulled all the houses down.
That's what the documentary said. The guy was saying it was they were taking out so many houses. I think it was like there was about 30. I think it was if there was about the first 30 houses they took right out, and then they were taking them by 30. I just wanted to say quickly, my thoughts are with you, Eric. I hope your mum's okay, because Eric's mum had an accident on Tuesday night. Well, it'll be Tuesday night my time, but Tuesday tea time for Eric. So I just thought, I really hope your mum's all right, Eric. My thoughts for you, my man.
So, I mean, a lot of people started to leave the town. They've been given this offer by the government. The government has turned around and said, we'll give you this. And they've gone, fine, we're going. But it's the people that felt that, Centralia is their home. And like Lois said earlier on, if it's your home, why should you leave it?
Yep.
And so there were a few people that stayed. So 63 people remained in Centralia. In 1992, Pennsylvania Governor Bob Casey invoked the eminent domain on all property in the borough, condemning all the buildings within. This then created another issue, because technically if a building is being condemned, you don't belong there and you've got to go.
Yeah, it's uninhabitable.
They stayed. So a lot of people said, no, we are staying.
Hey, Irene.
And so a subsequent legal effort by the remaining residents to overturn the action had failed. Then in 2002, the US Postal Service discontinued Centralia's zip code of 17927. Then only 16 homes were still standing by 2006, which was then reduced to 11 by 2009, when Governor Ed Rendell began the formal eviction of the remaining Centralia residents. And by 2010, when the documentary was made, only 5 homes remained. Centralia mine fire extended beneath the village of Burnsville, a short distance to the south, and required it also to be abandoned. So it's not just Centralia.
Burnsville?
Yeah.
So Burnsville has also been affected. So a few homes are left remaining. A few of the diehards, but a lot of the places now have, obviously they've been demolished. They've been taken back to the way they were prior to the town being developed. So it's now been most of it's been reclaimed by nature. And some of the remaining residents will still go out and cut grass in the fields, knowing full well of the possible dangers of the sinkholes. But again, they're diehards. They want to stay where they are. They don't want to leave their properties. The remaining church in the borough, St. Mary's, holds weekly services on a Sunday. And it's not been affected directly by the fire. The town's 4 cemeteries, including one on the hilltop, which has still got smoke rising from around it, is still maintained. The only indications of the fire, which underlies some 400 acres spreading along 4 fronts, are low round metal steam vents in the south of the borough. Several signs of warning of the underground fire are unstable ground and dangerous levels of carbon monoxide, which...
Can I just say, these people are my hero. Like, they are really my hero, because it was just like, they are taking their life in their own hands because they are surrounded by, it's almost like you could say they're in hell, because underneath there's a burning fire underneath them. And it's kind of like, do you know what? They people are great. I think they're brilliant. If they want to stay in their own homes, and they're more than willing to deal with what's underneath them,
I think
fair play to them.
The bigger issue is they were told it's because of the levels of carbon monoxide seeping through the ground and entering homes.
Yeah, which is highly poisonous, obviously.
And the equipment that was being used, they didn't send down enough equipment for the residents. So the monitors, the carbon monoxide monitors, were only being put in certain homes to check for carbon monoxide. Not all the homes received these detectors. So the question was then asked, is the carbon monoxide really that high that it's dangerous? And some of the residents hadn't recorded any carbon monoxide in their homes, yet they were being told they had to leave. So that then started the questions, is the situation as dangerous as the government had told them it was? And some of the residents, they are now stating that they've been going backwards and forwards through their normal lives and not much has been happening. Their homes are still fine, and as they were when their grandparents were living in there, they've not reported any carbon monoxide in their homes. So...
Well, that's the thing. I don't mean to cut you off. I was going to say that's the one thing. I mean, it's good to know that nothing has been happening, but like you said before about that, this fire spread throughout, to another nearby town.
Yeah.
The question is exactly that. It's always a possibility that it could eventually spread, and it could get worse, as time goes on. So, it's like any disaster. It's not a question of if, but it's a question of when things could, eventually get kind of ugly for that area.
Well, I suppose beyond really, because the whole that area is full of anthracite. But it depends on that particular seam of anthracite that's there. How big is it and how far does it spread? Because all it needs is a break in that anthracite and it will stop burning. Yeah. But because they don't know, without actually doing tests and opening the ground up to see how far it stretches, they've just got to wait for it to burn out.
But I suppose it's like anywhere. It's like and I'm going to use America as a prime example, or Tunisia or Indonesia or anything like that, right? But if you're going to places, you've got to take on board what could be around about you, like earthquakes, tsunamis, fires like Centralia, that sort of things that you've got to bear in mind when you're going and buying like places to live is what is happening around about you. I mean, the great conversation right now is sinkholes. and a lot of the places that are having sinkholes just now. Now, I've always said personally, I would love a house right by the beach, like right in this beachfront. But I've seen it more and more on YouTube of tsunamis coming in and smacking the house, or sinkholes, the old sinkhole thing with happening. And I mean, sinkholes can happen many times. So I suppose, fair play to these people that are staying in their own homes in Centralia. Fair play to them.
Yeah, because I mean they've got to be careful, because obviously as the coal's burning, the ground becomes stable, and one person's house could be fine, but there could be no anthracite underneath it, so there's nothing burning underneath, so it hasn't made the ground unstable. And yet his next door neighbour, who could only be 150 yards away from him, could have a seam of anthracite running underneath it that's burnt out. That becomes unstable, and the house collapses.
The one guy.
That's actually similar. Well, since you brought up sinkholes, I mean, obviously, as beautiful as a state this is, of course, but I mean, they say the one state actually that has the most sinkholes is actually, and it's not surprising though, is Florida, because obviously a lot of before we inhabited throughout that state, it was mostly swamp area, so that's why the ground is often unstable and so. And that's the same thing. I saw a documentary about sinkholes. It was actually on the Weather Channel, believe it or not, and they interviewed a guy who next door to him, they had to demolish a house because it was on unstable ground. It was sitting directly above a sinkhole, which unfortunately it was disappointing for the residents that lived there. But when they checked with this guy in particular, they said his house was good. There was no need to demolish it. It had a solid foundation. Well, it was solid underground, so he was good. But they had to demolish the house next to him because it was on unstable soil.
Irene says we have a sensitive sensor in our house that detects anything that is dangerous in our house, and it's plugged in above my refrigerator, including the air quality. That's actually quite good to have, Irene. But yeah, it's just
we have battery operated ones in our house, and when the batteries start running low, it just goes.
Oh no! Tell me about it. It's like to be a pain in the ass.
It sounds like a villager from Minecraft. He just goes.
Did the guy that owned the gas station not have a bunch of carbon monoxide detectors?
That's the thing. The carbon monoxide detectors, dot them all over the house just in case. I mean, we've got one. I think we got two, haven't we? One's above the stairs, and one's downstairs there in the hallway. Yeah. So, I mean, we've got two carbon monoxide detectors. In a sense, we only really need the one up on the stairs to detect any carbon monoxide that goes upstairs while we're all sleeping. So they have to be regularly checked. But obviously, you're looking 1962. Were there carbon monoxide detectors then?
And even if he had one, though, the gas station owner, it wouldn't have mattered because his gas still would have gotten to that temperature from the ground that it was sitting on without meeting the carbon monoxide reading.
I mean, I was lucky that petrol station didn't blow up.
I was going to say, I'm surprised it didn't blow up,
because it would have got to a certain temperature and then it would have just gone bang.
Yeah, it would have. Well, and that would also, I think it probably would have even created, like a larger explosion, because that's the other thing too when it comes to these coal fires and when it comes to trying to extinguish
them. Put some gasoline on it and then light it on fire.
No, when it comes to these coal fires,
like a charcoal grill, and you're living in it. You're using charcoal to light like a hamburger.
Yeah, well, see, when it comes to these coal fires, and this was the reason why they weren't able to really extinguish a lot of these coal fires at first, was I looked up more about coal fires, and they say that any dry coal seams that are untouched by water can actually absorb it and reignite. But it's not only that. The idea of, let's say, if the gas station exploded, it would have been a larger explosion, because those, a lot of times, methane gas often builds up in mines, including abandoned ones. And once there's enough of it, it's boom.
Why do I want to laugh? I don't know. I'm morbid, but I feel like I just want to laugh because I can imagine the stupid, like movie theatrical fire in this gas station that's sitting on top of this coal burning mine underneath it.
Irene says never near the beach because you can get caught in a tsunami and you can't get insurance, especially if there's no soil underneath you. There's only sand and that's why they got a lot of earthquakes, but they grow the best rice and make the best steak. And Sarah Louise says petrol has a flash point of minus 43 degrees. I can't even remember. My brain was gone somewhere with thoughts, and now I'm dead. It's been a long day. That's why I can't think. That's why I'm off a quit.
What is negative 43 degrees Celsius? What is that in Fahrenheit?
But I mean, the thing is, like it's like, you know, you got additional smoke and steam can be seen coming from the abandoned portion of Pennsylvania Route 61, and there was a very famous photo of Route 61 where people had gone into Centralia and they'd placed graffiti all over the road.
Yep, there's pictures of it.
And that was one of the things that sparked up the rumors of the place being haunted, because they were like, well, who's put that there? It shouldn't be there.
Yep.
Obviously, it was done by vandals. And that was the area just behind the Hilltop Cemetery, and other cracks in the ground then scattered about the area. And Route 61 was then repaired several times until they finally closed it. The current route was formerly a detour around the damaged portion during the repairs and became a permanent route in 1993. Mounds of dirt were then placed at both ends of the former route, effectively blocking the road. Pedestrian traffic is still possible due to a small opening about 2 feet wide at the north side of the road. The underground fire is still burning and may continue to do so for at least another 250 years. The Commonwealth of Pennsylvania did not renew the relocation contract at the end of 2005. So the last remaining house on Locust Avenue was demolished in September 2007. And it's notable for that period for the 5 chimney-like support buttresses along each of the 2 opposite sides of the house. The house had formerly been supported by a row of adjacent buildings. Another house with similar buttresses was visible from the northern side of the cemetery, just north of the burning hillside. And the thing is like, when they looked at it, they on the documentary, I think it was it John Lakitis? He showed people around the place and showed you where the playground was back in the 60s. And it almost looked like a scene from Terminator after the nuclear bomb had gone off and the fire had swept through the park and just scorched everything. It looked really strange. And then obviously you see it in the background, you could see steam and smoke coming up out of the ground. And you're like, that's, you know, it's been burning since 1962 or possibly 30 years before. And yet it's still burning.
And got another good picture here.
How far away in Illinois? How far away in Illinois is that away for you? Because it's saying it's in Illinois, so how far is that away for you?
You know what? It's funny you look. I think I know exactly what you're looking up. That's a different Centralia. We got a.
Is it?
Yeah, we have another Centralia down in Illinois, although it's more down southern Illinois.
Right.
So it's like,
sorry, just tell me to shut up, Nick. Say, Lois, get it together.
State.
I was actually just going to throw this out real quick too. So we got it's down in southern Illinois, which is like nowhere near where I live. It wasn't a coal fire, but it was a coal mine explosion, and that one occurred. That was even before the fire supposedly started. In fact, Wayne, this one occurred back in 1947, and so I'm just going to read this real quick because it's real short. The mine had received numerous warnings about conditions prior to the explosion. At that time, 142 men were in the mine. 65 were killed by burns and other injuries, and 45 were killed by afterdamp. 8 men were rescued, but 1 died from the effects of afterdamp. But to put this all in a simple perspective, because I'm just scrolling through, at 3:25 a.m., March 25th, 1947, electric power to the mine stopped. Survivors testified that there was a strong blow or rush of dust for about 5 minutes. One miner claimed that the dust appeared to be a black powder, while a mine employee claimed that he could smell powder smoke, though he did not enter the mine until after the explosion. An Illinois government report claimed that the explosion was caused by buildup of coal powder, though he could not find a catalyst. Though the catalyst was likely accidental, the buildup of coal powder was due to the governmental regulators following a weak, ineffectual, and indifferent policy toward enforcing the state mining laws. So to kind of give you guys an idea, because I just kind of cut it down, in the end, unfortunately, 111 miners were killed. Only 31 escaped and survived. United Mine Workers Union President John L. Lewis testified to Congress that the Secretary of the Interior, Julius Krug, had ignored warnings by inspectors that coal dust was accumulating, which can cause explosions. And get this, and Rosie, I think you're going to find this fascinating because I know he was from Oklahoma. This actually became so well known that even Woody Guthrie recorded a song about the Centralia mine disaster entitled "The Dying Miner."
Oh, that's awesome! I didn't know that.
Yeah.
So I mean, the remote two of the remaining residents, John Konarski and John Lakitis Jr., they were technically evicted in May and July of 2009, respectively. And in May 2009, the remaining residents then mounted another legal effort to reverse the 1992 eminent domain claim, which was what allowed the government to tell everybody your houses are condemned.
Yeah.
And in 2010, only 5 homes remained as state officials tried to vacate the remaining residents and demolish what was left of the town. In March 2011, a federal judge refused to issue an injunction that would have stopped the condemnation. The borough council still had regular meetings as of 2011, and it was reported that the town's highest bill at the meeting reported on came from PPL Electrical Utilities at $92, and the town's budget was in the black. In February 2012, the Commonwealth Court ruled that a declaration of taking could not be reopened or set aside on the basis that purpose for the condemnation no longer exists. 7 people, including the borough council president, had filed suit claiming the condemnation was no longer needed because the underground fire had moved and the air quality in the borough was the same as that in Lancaster. In October 2013, the remaining residents then settled their lawsuit, receiving $218,000 in compensation for the value of their homes, along with $131,500 to settle additional claims and the right to stay in their homes for the rest of their lives. In April 2020, amidst the early part of that lovely pandemic, the property's current owners made the decision to cover over the graffiti on the highway section of Old Route 61. Several mounds of dirt were laid over the area, thus ending a decades-long fascination with the desolate stretch of road.
I got the picture right here for you, Wayne, of the graffiti-covered road.
Gucci was there.
I mean,
Hi, Gucci.
Gucci was
I mean,
there.
you can see there the cracks in the road, you know, sort of to the right, and that is just a prime example of how large the veins of coal reached out across Centralia
And the heat
for it to
split it.
subside the road enough to make it dip like that.
Yep.
Yeah, the heat split the concrete.
No.
It's exposed to the elements, essentially. And I also have one other pic. This is actually one I'm surprised I haven't seen years ago. Must have recently been put up. Here is a great two photos comparison of what Centralia looked like back prior to 1962, or maybe been that year before the fires, and what it looks like today.
Yep.
Is that not the picture that I used for the advertisement?
I don't know. I didn't see the
Yeah, it is, because that's the one I used, because I thought that looks actually quite good for showing people what it's like before and what it's like. now.
I think it's quite amusing that they've got the telephone poles are still there, yet there's no houses.
That's what I was about to get to.
No
Yeah,
buildings either.
and the same with one of the street signs is still there. Yeah.
I mean, that could be the in the right-hand photo. That could be the one warning of possible sinkholes or poisonous gases. I'm not too sure on your road signage thing, but
I think it's usually stop sign ahead. I think that's what it normally is.
So you can even tell with it, like the way the road's going, that when you look at the left, obviously it looks clear as day, but when you look at the right, you can start to tell with the cracks in the road.
And obviously the one on the right, it's. I think that the photos have obviously been taken at separate times, different times of the year. The one on the left looks like it's been taken in quite possibly late spring and into autumn. Whereas
it's definitely early 60s, considering that this was, color was still expensive at that time, but it has to be at least the early 60s though, because
I'm looking at the seasons.
Those vehicles are the 60s.
The seasons
models.
In the pictures look different.
67,
probably about 19.
65.
I'm gonna just just say the photo on the left was probably taken maybe around like 1960 or 61, maybe very early 62. Actually, no, I'll take that back. I would say maybe either 1960 or 61, because if the fire started in March of 62, it would have still been cold. Because you could see on the left, like someone on their bike, it looks pretty warm outside. So yeah, I'm gonna put it either the spring of March. Yeah, either 60 or 61.
I would hazard a guess that maybe that's actually in the 70s, not the 60s. Because if you look further back, there seem to be what look like more modern vehicles than 60s.
I don't know. It's kind of, it doesn't say. I'm looking right now.
The two cars that I can see are a 63 or 65 model, I believe. I'm not sure. They could be 62, because 62 to 63 is not a big transition in a lot of vehicles.
I mean, the point I was making is the seasons
are like 63-ish years.
The seasons on each photo, they look like different times of the year.
Yeah, they do.
Yeah.
It doesn't say. I'm looking right now.
Well,
it doesn't say the years when these photos were taken.
There's plenty of greenery, so you'd be looking spring into summer, and the one on the right looks like that's going autumn into winter.
Right.
Because there's not much foliage on the trees.
No, you're right. You're right.
So although they look like they're being taken at different times of the year, although different years, they've been taken in different seasons. So
it was completely different, though. Brown, not just the season-wise, but just like the aesthetic and look of it looks completely darker, gloomier too.
But yeah, I mean, it is strange that there's the houses have disappeared and yet the telephone wires are still there.
The telephone poles are still there. The question is, do they even still work? That's the real question.
Yeah.
Sarah just asked here, does it snow there? I believe it does snow there, like the rest of the state of Pennsylvania, but it has little to no effect on the coal fires.
Yeah, I think in parts of the documentary, the guy is walking around in sort of like snowy areas, but because of the fires underground, the snow doesn't seem to stay that long where the fires are.
Yeah, they.
Why?
With any of the coal
it wouldn't
fires,
do anything at all, because it said that they dumped loads and loads of water on it and didn't touch the flames and the fire. It didn't do anything. So the snow would be the same thing.
The problem is if you put water onto the ground, by the time it seeps low enough to the fire, the heat would have turned it into steam and it would have
evaporated. Yeah.
So it wouldn't have
like
made
a sauna.
Difference.
You could sit there and get a free sauna. Like a sauna.
Basically.
So,
like
they did try various methods to put the fires out, like digging trenches, but the fire by that time was so widespread that it was very difficult to actually get the equipment in.
They said it was on the other side of the trench already, like it had started making it through the trench.
they dug one trench and they misjudged it, and the fire had already gone past where they were digging. And when they dug down, they found that all this coal had been.
They were drinking on the job.
Spent. So they're like, gone past, so that was pointless. And so, of course, as a result, it all went a bit pear-shaped, and they ended up with nothing, and they just said, right, well, the money's run out, we can't do much else about it, we're just gonna have to let nature run its course.
Well, do you think it was a case that the money ran out, or just a case that they didn't want to fund a town that they knew was dying to death?
I think the chances are that, because obviously they'd already started the ball rolling with trying to relocate people, that they injected a lot of money into relocating the residents. They've probably thought to themselves, is it worth pumping any more money into it?
Yeah.
We've got the offer there for the residents, so they can be moved.
And in the documentary, it said that Reagan put a stop to it. Reagan said that there's no more money going to go into this.
How much more do we have to put in to try and put this fire out?
Right.
You could turn around and say we'll stick $10 million more in, and then that $10 million just goes out the window. And next minute, they're asking for more money to try and put it out, and it would just cost all the time. It just wouldn't be worth it.
All that money truly is going up in smoke then.
Yeah. You said, would it be hot enough to cause spontaneous combustion if they tried to build a barrier? That's what I was thinking myself, to be honest with you.
Any material, if it gets hot enough, will spontaneously combust.
Or melt.
There is a subject I really want to get into, but the last time I went into this subject, YouTube put a ban on it, so I'll try and stay away from the spontaneous combustion, because the last time I tried to talk about that, the YouTube tried to violate me. So
basically, just everything has a burn point. It just is variation in temperature. But then you go on to the fictional side of things, the fictional side of Centralia. And I found it quite interesting because I didn't realise that many people had used Centralia as inspiration for stories and films.
Dante's Inferno? I don't know. Makes me think of Dante's Inferno.
It would have been a good idea for an inspiration. You'd have thought so. But it was a model for many different fictional ghost towns and manifestations of hell. Prominent examples.
Exactly, Sarah. Exactly.
Prominent examples include Dean Koontz's Strange Highways and David Wellington's Vampire Zero. Screenwriter Roger Avery researched Centralia while working on the screenplay for the Silent Hill film adaptation. And it is, however, a common misconception that the town was an inspiration for the whole series. In 1982, PBS documentary Centralia Minefire, or Centralia, I should say. I call it Centralia for some reason. Contains interviews with residents and relates to the story of the minefire. The 1987 film Made in USA opens in Centralia and the surrounding coal region of Pennsylvania. The Austin, Texas-based band Nice Strong Arm had a song titled Centralia on their 1988 album Mind Furnace. Author Bill Bryson described Centralia.
Makes a good point.
Yeah, it very much is like the American version.
Like an American version of Chernobyl.
The only difference is not that many people died.
No, there was barely any. There was barely any.
Irene, I would love to sit and speak to you about that. Honestly, I would. But the last time, honestly, straight hand up to God, tell you no lies. When I spoke about that subject, I got a violation.
Yes, seriously? We're not allowed to talk about that sort of thing.
Oh, it's a load. Do you know what? It's a load of pish, to be honest. Why? Because there's a lot of people that speak about subjects like this, and it's just, what happened to freedom of speech? It's a load of bollocks.
It's one thing.
Sorry, Irene.
It's one thing if it's actually considered offensive, but like nowadays, anything you say, they take offense to it now, which is not.
And it's not even that. If I go into the subject, I don't want Jeremy York getting any more strikes for YouTube. So
yeah.
Oh God, yeah. Don't remind me.
So we'll carry on.
I'll come on that too.
Yeah.
Come on from the subject. Let's stop talking about it then. You know, only trying to raise.
Do you know you guys are making me want to go off now and watch Silent Hill?
I know. I've been
Great
thinking that
movie.
for the last week.
It's
anyway,
okay. I'm always.
Author Bill Bryson then described Centralia as the strangest, saddest town I believe I've ever seen in his 1998 travel book, A Walk in the Woods. Then 2007 documentary, The Town That Was, is about the history of the town and its current and former residents. Centralia had a segment entitled City on Fire on the Travel Channel television series America Declassified, which aired in 2013. The History Channel documentary Centralia Pennsylvania's Lost Town, released in 2017, details the city's mine fire and the resulting decline. The Centralia story was explored in the documentary segment Dark Embers from public radio station WYNC's Radio Lab. The American history comedy podcast Dollop featured an episode in 2015 discussing Centralia. And then the setting of the 1991 film Nothing But Trouble, starring Chevy Chase and Dan Aykroyd, was set in the fictional town Valkenvania, based on Centralia. And the song Perpetual Flame of Centralia featured in the 2021 film Sinner Get Ready by Lingua Ignota, whatever, derives both its title and lyric themes from the town and its mine fire. So
I can't help but think of this. I know it's not related to Centralia, but it's playing in my head right now. I can't help but think of Johnny. Yeah. She read my mind. Ring of Fire.
It's not
Do you know that? Do you know, guys? Do you know you guys are sitting saying that, and I'm sitting here thinking that. I'm sitting here humming that in my head. The Ring of Fire.
Into the burning ring of fire.
Oh my God!
June Carter actually wrote that song about Johnny Cash being like dangerous, like she was getting burned by being with him, but she couldn't resist him.
Wow!
Yeah.
And it was me.
I absolutely love that song.
Yeah. I didn't know that she wrote it. I thought he did.
Quickly, guys, before we wrap it up shortly, I just want to remind people that next, goodness gracious, Great Balls of Fire.
I actually intended the person to sing that.
What you like? Nick, you need to. It does that, Nicky boy.
Anita Carter wrote that. Her sister, June Carter, and Anita Carter wrote Ring of Fire.
So next Thursday, guys, there will be no show. But what I'm really asking for you guys to do that tune into this show about this time is please come on and show support for Zach Clayton, who's doing a 22-hour marathon for war veterans and suicide prevention. So what I'm asking, guys, is for you to show support by just coming on at the normal time. And even if you watch just a wee while late, that would be great. Just to please show your support. So just in case you're wondering why, obviously, thanks very much, Sarah Louise. Why we're obviously no on next Thursday, that's why. It's just obviously this gentleman's doing a 22-hour, and it's a great cause. It's for our war veterans. It's about suicide prevention. So please, guys, tune in. Thank you very much. So yeah.
So anyway, I have been asked. I will say finally because there isn't much information left. I have been asked via message, is it still burning? The answer is yes, it is, and it will continue to burn for possibly another 250 years.
Oh wow!
Yeah,
can you legally go? Years, yeah. Can you legally go to Centralia? And the answer to that is there's nothing stopping anybody from going to Centralia.
It's basically yes and no, if you want.
It used to be advisory. It used to be an advisory not to go because of the levels of carbon monoxide and all the smoke and possible sinkholes. But apparently, there is nothing stopping visitors from driving into the borough, parking, and having a walk around.
I have some masks that you could wear, and you could go there and look around with those masks on.
I think I think some people have actually done that, Rosie, because I do know it has. On certain occasions, it has become kind of somewhat of a tourist attraction, as long as you're keeping a safe distance from where the actual fires are.
Because of Silent Hill, I think that, because everybody found out that it was based on Centralia, everybody's going, oh, we're going to go there because that's a real place, and they've gone over there. Hence the graffiti on Route 61. People have left their mark. We visited Centralia. Yay!
I just like to go there because it's Silent Hill. I don't want to tag the road. I just want to go there and say I was there.
If anybody, of course, is a huge fan of
Eric's asking, Nick, did you do Ash Wednesday?
Yeah, I did. I still got a little bit of the ash on my forehead. So, but yeah, I was gonna say, if anybody's a huge fan of Silent Hill,
do you know what? I didn't want to insult you, Nick, because I thought you hadn't washed your face today. So I just thought, I'll not ask the boy.
Lois, I thought you were going to say Nick's going grey.
I did.
Wait now. I'm going to have a close look. Oh, so he is. Hello, Silver Fox.
I was gonna say I actually did take a shower before I came on here. Yet not all the ash came off of it, so still got a little bit of a marking on it.
Baby oil.
Someone said about did anybody actually die during this? There was a death. In fact, there was 111 deaths.
That's the one I was talking about.
But
Centralia, Illinois.
This was in the town, near the town of Centralia, so it was nearby. It does. So it's come up how many people died in the Centralia mine fire.
Yeah, the one down in southern Illinois.
Looking into it, it actually comes up as the 1947
Centralia,
Illinois fire. So again, people are being misinterpreting what's being put down and gone with the Centralia in Illinois rather than the one in Pennsylvania.
Yeah,
that's where Lois was. She was off in a slip road. You were in Pennsylvania. I was in Illinois.
See, the difference between these two towns, there's two differences. One is the one here. That wasn't like an official mine fire. It was just
man.
The difference between the two Centralias is the one here was not an actual mine fire. It was an explosion.
Yeah.
And that Centralia, what we have here in Illinois, is still running to this very day. The other one just doesn't exist anymore. But the other thing I forgot to bring up too is that it says here, where was it? Oh yeah, here it is. It actually, the U.S. Department of Labor have listed it is considered the second worst. It is considered the second worst U.S. mining disaster in U.S. history since 1940. So we kind of have a record for as far as the actual mine itself. It doesn't say if the mine is still in operation. I'm not sure, but the town of Centralia of Illinois is still. It's actually located in 4 different counties down in the southern part of the state. It's which it's located in Clinton, Jefferson, Marion, and Washington counties. So it's like in the center. And I actually additionally. I took a minute while you were speaking, Wayne, but I found that song by Woody Guthrie of The Dying Miner.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, you can find it on YouTube. It's a pretty tragic song. And even, in fact, I'll even zoom in on this so you guys can see for yourselves. Even this, I don't know if this is based on an actual photo, but even the cover of it shows a funeral going on, carrying the bodies of the miners who were killed.
Oh. Yeah.
So,
oh my God.
And what's it called?
The Dying Miner. So if you like, I can send it to you guys in the group chat so you guys can listen to it.
Well, I sent you a wee present in the group chat for you to look at. It's because I'm really looking rough tonight. That's how my camera's on because I had a long day. So it's a car picking up a Bigfoot. And he says, I normally don't pick up hitchhikers, but this guy's an exception. Nick, you show them the picture.
Here, I'm looking for it right now.
I'm gonna have to go.
It's in the group chat.
I saw your message, Rosie. Yeah. Rosie, unfortunately, does have to leave early.
Sorry, Rosie. I'll just. All right. Right. No bother, love. Thanks for coming on.
Bye.
Good night, everybody.
Bye, honey.
Yep.
Good
See you
night.
again soon, Rosie.
Good night, Rosie. Good night, honey.
Okay.
Right.
I found the picture. I know. Oh, it's from those classic Sasquatch commercials. The ones with Jack Lynx.
Aye. But I was going.
Go ahead.
No, you go ahead, honey. What you got to say?
No, I was just going to tell Wayne to continue onwards because I know he was saying some other things too. So go ahead.
Well, as of 2021, I've just discovered there is now 4 residents.
4 of them?
Yeah. There's only 4 residents left. And from what I can tell, Centralia has been given its zip code back.
Really?
Oh.
Because it was the original zip code of 1792-7 was discontinued in 2002. But then apparently it was then continued as Ashland from 2002 until today.
Wow.
And that's been designated 792-1. So I think Ashland must be a zip code next to Centralia.
Yeah.
So they've moved the zip code into Centralia. So they do have mail going to and from Centralia again.
Residents that live there then.
But it never mentioned that. It said the zip code was discontinued, but no one ever mentions the fact that it was continued, but using the zip code from a neighboring town.
Real quick, here's that picture, by the way, that Lois had said. I love this. Oh, I love the Jack Link's beef jerky messing with Sasquatch commercials. Those are the best.
I would have thought that would have been the opposite, wouldn't it? I normally pick up hitchhikers, but this guy's an exception and just speed on. You'd see that in your wing mirror, you'd be like, nah.
They need to bring back those messing with Sasquatch commercials. I love those. Those were the best. Actually, I'll just say this real quick, not to get off topic, but there was a guy who was there's a guy on YouTube. I think he's actually been on one of the I think he was on Unexplained, Caught on Camera, in fact, and he lives out in the state of Ohio, and he was actually looking for evidence of the Ohio grassman, as they call their Bigfoot over there. And well, you can find on YouTube, he happens to walk into some kind of small cave, which he assumed this is probably like where the grassman probably frequents, maybe not lives, but hangs out there on several occasions. And as he's going through he has this camera all over the place. And at one point he points it down because he sees what's on the ground. He looks down and there's a bag of Jack Lynx right on the ground. He's like, oh my God, it's a bag of Jack Lynx. Those commercials were right.
But yeah, I think if I can remember let me try and find it again. If anybody is interested in watching the documentary, because I couldn't stop watching it. I literally
is that the one that I posted to you guys, or is that a different one?
That was the one you posted to us.
Right. Well, I'll tell you what. I'll go into the group chat. I'll post. What I'll do, guys, is I'll go into the group chat, copy and post the link, and then I'll post it into the chat. I'll do that now. In fact, I'll tell you what. I'll do it right now while you're in front of me, because I'll know what will happen. I'll forget, and then I'll go off, and everybody will be waiting all night for this documentary link. So
right, hang on,
I'll
then
do it now.
I was going to say I can do it now without any problem.
You know what we should do, by the way, and since you've had the opportunity of meeting him, you should try to talk to Don one of these days and maybe do a Fear Fans episode of Silent Hill, since we talked about the true side, in this case with Centralia. now talk about the movie itself. How does that sound?
Well, I would be up for that. As I said, I really enjoyed Fear Fans. Don't get
Do
me
you know
wrong.
what? To be honest, I think I'm going to have to re-watch the Silent Hill films again.
I heard they're making a new one. Speaking of
Yes,
which,
I heard
Yep.
the same earlier on this week. I think it was. I heard it.
I'm betting that they're going to include my favorite monster in it again, Pyramid Head. He
Pyramid
was one
Head.
of the best.
Yeah.
I actually, you know, I actually saw, I think it was at a Paracon that I was at, or maybe it was or some type of horror film con that I went to, and they had a costume contest, and one of the guys that was there he dressed up as Pyramid Head. So it's I love it. I love that movie.
Yeah, it's going to be called Return to Silent Hill.
Return to Silent Hill.
Yeah, Return to Silent Hill will be directed by Christoph Gans, starring Jeremy Irvine and Hannah Emily Anderson.
I'm looking it up right now.
James Sunderland
Eric
returns to Silent
says
Hill
if
to
you talk
find
about
his
the
lost
movie I
love,
want
Mary
in,
Crane.
yes, Silent Hill 3. I've not even seen Silent Hill 2. I've only seen Silent Hill 1, to be honest.
The second one, yeah, Revelation. That's Revelation. The second one, I actually saw that one in the theater.
Hey, Chantel!
The second Silent Hill, as I remember, I know it didn't get the best reviews as the first one did, and I mean, the plot line was okay. I wasn't really as impressed with it, but the monster action, though, including again with Pyramid Head, was still very awesome to watch. So I still enjoyed it. Nevertheless, the first one will always be superior, but it was, you know, it was pretty good. So
do you want me to tell you guys something? Me and my partner, we sat and watched the other night. We thought we'd have a nice night for Valentine's night. And we were going to sit and watch movies together. And we watched Redgate. Let me save you, an hour and a half. It was a pile of pish. It wasn't even what Amazon said it was. I thought it was going to be a film about aliens and sci-fi, paranormal. Oh my Lord to Jesus. Never ever day Redgate and Fear Fans. So anyway, so I'm sitting there and I'm thinking this is a really interesting start. And then it started bouncing between like when they were talking about getting back to this place, right? And then all of a sudden, wait till you hear this. So I'm looking for aliens. Guys in masks starting to kill these people, right? So the next thing you know, I'm thinking, gets to the end of the film, and I'm like, where the fuck is the aliens? I'm expecting the spaceship to come by with the ending. See, when I looked it up, the people in the masks were alien thingies, and I'm like, that's no aliens away and have a word with yourself. I was like that, oh, I was so disappointed. But we actually then, we sat and we watched Star Troopers.
Star Trooper. Oh, you know,
Starship
I haven't
Troopers.
seen it, but I've heard of it.
Starship Troopers. Oh my god, I love that film. So I was sitting watching
the first one was brilliant, but then straight after that, when they started coming out with the other ones, I'm just like, no, go away.
I must admit, the second one wasn't here. Sorry, Don. I'm not taking your idea for Fear Fans.
I don't think he's watching.
In case he thinks, oh my god, they're trying to steal my show. No, the second one, I wouldn't say it was the best. It's the best I've seen, but I still could watch it. The third one, I actually liked the third one, to be fair. But that's my man. He just gets me into this geeky shit. And it's like Cloverfield aliens didn't show up until the end of the movie. I like Cloverfield. I like Cloverfield 1, 2, and Paradox.
I've only ever seen the first one, Cloverfield.
The second one's really good with John Goodman.
Yeah, I heard it's not necessarily a direct sequel, but it has a connection to it.
Aye, it does. Sorry, we're wandering off the topic into films.
It's a bit like the new Silent Hill. I mean, technically it's the third film, but this one is based on Silent Hill 2 video game.
It's a reboot. It says that's what it's supposed to be.
And I have heard the story before where he goes back after receiving a strange letter. So It's a bit weird, although it's the third film. It's based on the second game.
Yeah,
I've actually never played the second game.
But
Played the first one, but not played the second one.
It's like Resident Evil. You look at Resident Evil and you think, oh my
I
God,
love
there's
these
so
films.
many Resident Evils that I just got so fed up after the third one.
I have a few of the Resident Evil games. I'm actually, funny enough, because I just decided to look it up for myself because I got a Steam account and most of the games I have are horror survival games. So I got at least, seeing from the list right now, it's taking a while to get logged in. Okay, here we go. So as far as Resident Evil goes in my library that I got, I haven't even played these yet. Although I have seen Don I have seen Don play these. What's great too about Steam is you can get some of these games at a really good discounted price when it comes to like a special holiday or something like that. And ones I got Resident Evil, got the first one, Resident Evil 0, I guess. I never really figured out which one that one was yet. And then I also got Resident Evil 1, 2, 3, and 4.
It's all right, guys. We went from Centralia to films to video games.
Well, no, because you've got Centralia. Centralia inspired someone to write Silent Hill. And from Silent Hill to Weird Monsters and whatever onto Resident Evil. I mean, there's links to each one of those.
This is why I love this show. We're like skipping stones.
Yeah.
Nick, whatever you do not play Resident Evil VR.
I don't have
do you know, guys?
It's messed up. Trust me, it's messed up.
Like in a good way or a bad way?
Oh, it depends on what you like, really, to be honest. But, if you walk around the corner, and you've got an abandoned house and you're wearing a VR headset, you're in an abandoned house and you walk around the corner and there's this zombie just about to grab your throat. Just whatever you do not run.
Just stay still.
Just stand still and run in the VR. I had a friend and I were playing it, and a friend had put the VR headset on and he got into this abandoned house. And he turned the corner and this zombie was there and he went to run and almost ran into the wall. If I hadn't have stopped him, he would have run face first into the wall.
Jeez.
I must admit, see when we got the VR, I'll never forget that. And my partner, he got a VR and I came in from my work one night and he says the VR's all set up. He says, have a shot of it, see what you like. He says, I'll tell you what, I'll put this thing on because he knows I love the ocean, anything to do with the ocean, even though I'm afraid of deep water, but I love the ocean. So the next thing you know, puts the VR set on, and it was like a scuba diver experience, and I'm like, and I feel dead relaxed and calm, right? And it's amazing how these VRs go into your brain. So I'm like, this is amazing. This is amazing. And you're going down and you're seeing all the fishies and you're thinking, I'm getting to the bottom of the sea. So the next thing you know, so you see this wreck flying. So I'm like, that's brilliant. That's thingy. Oh man, I nearly fucking died. Here was a great white shark, right? Yeah. There's me starting to scream. This is me starting to scream, forgetting, Louise, it's VR. It's no fucking real. And I'm sitting there watching this shark trying to come through the thing when I was going mental, and I'm putting my feet up, bringing my feet.
Yeah, I think
bringing my feet up like this, trying to get my legs.
I think that's the PlayStation 4 sample, isn't it? When you go diving in the cage.
Aye, and it's like you go all the way down.
Then go past, and then as you go past all the coral, the shark comes up and tries to get in the cage at you.
Aye, and that was me bringing my legs up. I swear to God, it was like something out of Jaws, and I'm screaming, and I'm like, Louise, what are you doing? It's VR.
I played one of the Star Wars games on VR, and it made me sick. I felt physically sick because it disorientates your brain. And how I found that out was I'm sitting in the cockpit of an X-Wing and I'm looking around left and right and towards my front, and it looked amazing. But then what freaked me out was I actually tilted over to my left and looked down, and I could actually see underneath the X-wing, as if I was actually in the cockpit looking out and down by the side of me. So I turned to the right and did the same thing. I turned around and looked behind me. I'd got the back of the cockpit. And I'm like, this is mental. And as we were going on these missions and we were trying to destroy some base, the controls were so fluid that the second I turned, it was disorientating me, and I was finding I was tipping like this. I was going with the X-wing. I'm like, nah, this is messed up, and I could feel queasy. So in the end, I say,
definitely,
I'm coming out of this game, and I stopped playing it.
Yeah. So tomorrow,
real quick, just to get back, like going back to in this case with Centralia, or particularly Silent Hill in this case, I only got one game on Steam from them. The one I got is Silent Hill Homecoming, which I heard. I haven't played it yet, but I heard it's really good though.
I think that must be about the third or fourth one, isn't it?
It probably is. But the weirdest thing is that's the only Silent Hill game that they have on Steam. They don't have any of the other ones for some reason whatsoever. I've been wanting to play the other ones for years, and I would have expected Steam to have them, but they only have Homecoming.
Blimey, you can buy that for the PC for £3.49.
Yeah, you can. It's not that expensive, surprisingly.
No, it's quite cheap. 6 out of 10 on Steam for Homecoming.
So tomorrow night on Frighteners, guys, we are going to be talking about Palladoria. I can't even say the word, but yes, we're going to be talking about
something else.
Yes.
That's the easiest way to describe it, Lois.
Yeah.
Seeing something out of something else.
Yeah, that's it. That's what he said, and I'm pointing up the way, like you can see me pointing up the way towards Wayne, but I am pointing my finger up towards Wayne. So what he says. So that's tomorrow night's show, right? Do you know what? I'm going to like Wednesday, Saturday, and Sunday because the last time I went straight to Monday and forgot about Saturday and Sunday. So, Mr. Wayne, is there anything on Saturday, Sunday?
No, I'm having a weekend off.
It's a weekend off for Wayne, but join him definitely on Monday. The Dark Mirror Boys will be talking about
aliens.
Yeah,
I kind of figured.
And all
Nicholas,
sorts.
Nicholas, have you got anything on that you want to share over the weekend so that I'm not missing you?
Not that I can really think of, as far as doing any shows. Although I will say, tomorrow, however, is my mom's birthday. So.
Oh, happy birthday to you! Happy birthday to you! Happy birthday, dear Mrs. P.
This is me. What?
I don't know why I said Mrs. P. I meant Mrs.
Nick's mum.
Hi, Nick's mum. Happy birthday to you. Sorry, I'll sing till tomorrow night as well. Don't worry.
Yeah, she's got. Yeah, we're not. I probably said this before because like about a week ago was my brother's birthday. Then after that, but we're not really going to be doing anything special tomorrow because we're going to hold that off and wait because basically over a week from now is my birthday will be coming up on Saturday. So what we're going to be basically doing is to kind of celebrate, as a combinational birthday for myself, my mom, my brother. We're going to go out for dinner probably the night before. So we are going to still celebrate tomorrow, but we're not going to have the real big celebration until next week. So it's going to be a lot of fun. Can't wait. And
it must be a lot of mums' birthdays because it's Ellen's mum's birthday tomorrow as well.
Sarah Louise,
happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear Ellen's mum. Happy birthday to you. Right, there you go.
Sarah Louise.
Jesus Christ.
When I said Saturday, I meant for next Saturday. It's not this Saturday. So I said it's over a week from now.
Well, I'll tell you what, guys. No, obviously next week's Zach Cloudon's doing his 22-hour marathon, but the week after's going to be a birthday bash for our Nicky boy.
Actually, there is one other thing I forgot to bring up. I might actually be participating in Zach's event because I took part. Zach Clayton, he's doing the Project it's called Project Die Hard, and so I actually might be participating in that. Although I'm still technically on hiatus with Nick Files because I did it last year, in which last year I presented. I had to think. It really took me a while for me to figure out what could I present as a slideshow for Project Die Hard, and the only thing I could really think of at that time was basically putting together a top 10 list, which was of the 10 most haunted forts. You know, not just in the United States though, from around the world. Because again, since Project Die Hard is not strictly just for our American veterans, it's also for a lot of our allied veterans from other countries. So I basically was making this like an international thing to again to give my part for our veterans here in America, as well as all of our veterans in other countries who have assisted us, including those who are in NATO or have assisted us, in past wars, that kind of thing. So for this year, I'm still trying to figure out what I'm going to be presenting. So I might be taking Nick Files will be making a brief comeback, hopefully, next Thursday. It's just a matter of exactly what I'm going to present. I'm still thinking.
Well, I think I'll be participating. I think I'll be going on to obviously I've lost a lot of people to suicide, so it's one of the biggest things closest to my heart is suicide. So I think I'm going on to obviously speak about that sort of side because it's something that is really, and I don't mean this, and this is probably going to sound sexist, right? I feel really sorry for MD who commits suicide, hand on heart, but my closest to my heart is men's mental health. Because a lot of my friends that have committed suicide are male. So I've never really lost a female friend to that. It's always been a male friend. So I'm very, very close to heart when it comes to men's mental health. So it's funny, and that's not me being sexist. That's just obviously
a reality of things, basically. And I think it's like this often, especially for those who have fought in most wars, whether it's us, whether it's us or the UK or other countries that have hated us, or even if it's countries that we're at war with, like let's say, for example, with what's been going on, with what's happening between Ukraine and Russia, and then also with what's happening between Israel and Palestine. And even if it's our enemies or something, I think it happens to most people in most wars, whether you're the ally or enemy, in which after a war is finally over and they come home and they're deeply affected by what they witness, especially, fighting for their respective country. And that could really, greatly impact them, for years to come.
I mean, speaking as an ex-vet myself, as a vet myself, when I left the Royal Air Force, I left along with about 30 odd others. I had a very close friend that lived in Yorkshire, and when he actually left school, the first thing he did was go into the army, and he went into bomb disposal. He got to the rank of sergeant, and through compassionate reasons, he had to leave the army. But realised that Civvy Street wasn't for him.
Oh, really?
He could not fit in with Civvy Street, so he joined the Royal Air Force. He couldn't go back into the army; they wouldn't have him back because of compassionate reasons. But he tried to explain to them that he's over that now, but Civvy Street's not for him. Wouldn't take him, so he joined the RAF regiment with me. And when we left, he turned around and he said, "I don't know what I'm going to do next. Civvy Street it's not for me. I can't do Civvy Street." And I said, well, as a joke, I turned around to him and said, well, you still got the Navy. And he wouldn't. He said, I don't like enclosed spaces. I don't like being penned in. So I can't go into the Navy. He ended up going into private military. So he then sort of went off. I think he went off sort of Bosnia way and ended up being a gun for hire, basically. And I've never heard from him since. And that was 1996. It's the last time I heard.
Do you know there's a guy who I've seen on the James English show, and I really would really love to track this guy down because I would love to have him on the show. And it's a guy. He's a Scottish guy. His name's Craig, and he was one of the best snipers in the force. And the guy's so sad. He's so sad all the time, and I just want to give him the biggest the cuddles. And it's the impact he obviously being in the forces that's done this, and that's what I'm saying to everybody tonight. You know, please go and watch Zach's show because it is really really going to be an interesting one without a shadow of doubt.
Yes, it will.
It will be, and leave it with me because I'm going to. Well, I've already did it for Frighteners, so I'm going to make it to a Gravenback. We'll do a mental health awareness again, because it was a really, really good one. Actually, Nick, I tagged you in my memory that came up on Facebook for the first the autism awareness.
Yep.
I can't believe these shows have been gone for nearly 2 years. So definitely we will.
What did I get myself into?
Nicky boy.
I'm kidding.
Don't you make me divorce you in the live, you asshole. But 2 years, Nick, me and you've been together hand in hand.
Yeah.
It's like honeymoon period. Come on, darling, we'll go to North Carolina.
I was just about to bring that up, saying still no trip to North Carolina yet.
Nicholas, never say never. You've got the right lights behind you. It'll happen in a Valentine's Day. I'll come back. I'll come back as Mrs. M. But definitely, guys, it's a close one to all our hearts, mental health. So definitely, please go and follow the show, and we will wrap it up here, guys, and we will see you next week. I'm saying next week. Fuck's sake! I'll see you tomorrow. We'll see you the week after.
Excuse me, miss.
Oh, yeah,
yes, darling. Yes, darling.
I just remembered something.
Jesus Christ.
I would like to apologise, but last Sunday I was going to be doing a live broadcast on Wednesday, Spook and Ori, regards to the 10th anniversary competition. However, I had a very long weekend, and it took me 5 hours to get home from Scarborough.
Hey, honey.
By the time I got home, I'd forgotten all about it and was more interested in having something to eat and going to bed. So I forgot the competition. However, I will not forget, and unfortunately, I'm busy this weekend doing things at home. So I'm going to extend the competition. If anybody still wants to enter the competition,
oh yes,
you've got until Wednesday next week to send your short stories, and they've got to be fictional. They've got to be fictional stories, totally made up.
Yay!
Include
my name as the main character by next Wednesday.
Right.
You know what? This is a very early announcement to make because I don't even know if I'll even be able to put this together for this year. But since I actually thought I should offer this to you too. Of course, Lois as well. obviously,
I like how he says my name at the end. Aye, that Lois as well. I suppose we'll have to include her.
And you too, Lois.
Obviously, as you guys know, like I'm still in the process of making my audiobooks, including re-releasing the previous ones, which again, it's been a lot of work. Though I have been taking several days in between breaks, because again, it's just so much. Well, and of course, obviously, I had to yesterday because it was Valentine's Day. But it's funny that we talked about Centralia, because one of the other books I got, I should have even brought this up earlier. There was, I could have sworn I saw a story where they based it off of Centralia, and there's a lot of similarities. I don't know if they call it Centralia in the book. It's been a while since I read it, but you would clearly tell that it's based off of it. But there are some differences, with also kind of like a little bit of a Silent Hill twist of its own, where it's like in the story, I think there's still like a few houses still standing. It's about like these groups of kids that go and check out the abandoned remains of the Centralia-based town. Again, it's been over a year since I use because I've been so busy working on these projects, I haven't been able to read them like I normally would, especially around Halloween. But they're at some point, if I'm correct, I think they enter like one of the abandoned houses. The next thing you know, they're getting like attacked by these spider-like creatures or something, or like giant spiders or something like that. And it was starting to come back to me with what we talked about today. And I thought to myself, if I ever get to this book for my next book project, I think I pretty much already know who I'm going to choose for that story already.
That's almost like Silent Hill meets Eight-Legged Freaks.
It probably is. I just don't remember the story. I don't have, since I'm in the basement, I don't have the book with me, so it's upstairs. But they have a story but no, seriously though, there is a story that they included that was based on, I think it's a combination of Centralia and Silent Hill in the scary stories world, if you want to put it that. Yeah. Excuse me, if you want to put it that way. So I already know who I'm giving that story to.
Yay!
I did get asked actually. I think it was yesterday or Tuesday, to actually be the voice for an audiobook, a fantasy audiobook about two twins called the Thatchet twins. So I've been asked to be the voice for the audiobook of that. So I'm looking forward to actually going through the manuscript and recording all of that.
Oh, that's great.
Quite interesting.
That sounds amazing.
So,
sounds amazing.
Bit of a proud moment there for someone to turn up out of the blue and say, "Can you do this for me, please, for my book release?" What? Hey?
It's like, congratulations.
That's awesome.
It was a bit of a shock, but I was saying to someone the other day on their podcast, sometimes when one door opens, it's not only one door closes, another one opens. It's not always that case. Yeah. Sometimes it's one door closes, then another one opens, but when it opens, you're not getting any more doors. You've just got this big wide world full of open doors. And it's just a case of you can come and go from whichever one you want. I said, because it all seems to happen at once. And,
wow,
sometimes it goes like that. The opportunities are there. You just got to grab them.
Right.
Without a doubt. But, yeah, there's where we're at. Once a while, sneeze again and I'll give you a kiss, Nick. Alright, guys, we will wrap this up. But guys, please have a good weekend and stay safe and make sure you all behave. Well, why do that? If you're in, just live once. See you later, guys. Bye.